What's up guys, welcome back to my channel Anime Crossover. I'm back with a new episode of Naruto Went to the Marvel Universe Part 4, and if you did enjoy the video, give it a like, and if you're new to my channel and like my content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for my crossover fictions. Now let's begin this new video.
The City That Never Sleeps, Chapter 4, another flashback begins. As the fight between Soul Society progressed, Karakura Town continued to resist the thunderous shockwaves. Buildings were brought down by a participant or a stray attack meant to cleave that participant. The streets were littered with upturned gravel and puddles of electrified water caused by downed power wires. As they met, streaks of various colors formed a jumbled collection of the rainbow spectrum. Four hues stood forth as they clashed against one that is pure darkness, their power fight displaying the golden color of light against the corrupt power of darkness. Rasengan. Naruto's chakra arm encircled Kronos and struck the chakra sphere at the Titan King's head. An attack by rabbits. Kronos had to sense that one, and he did wobble a little before the quartet pressed their attacks on him. As you mortals usually say, Kronos deflected their assaults with his scythe. Psych. After an explosion of dark aura expanded from Kronos' body, the party was sent flying throughout the town, bringing down several buildings and upturning the streets as two of them bounced hard like a pebble skipping on the water's surface. The other two were parallel and collided with the main hall of the local high school. One was saved by the other's quick thinking, but the latter took the brunt of the force as he lay on his back. As he gazed at his companion, he could be heard grunting. Rhea. "Dot, are you okay?" Naruto coughed slightly since Rhea was on his stomach. As she gazed at him, Rhea coughed slightly and felt a searing headache. As your race would say. Swell. The two rose up and checked each other for wounds, but Kurama's chakra had already taken care of them given the faint refreshing sensation. You know, you never mentioned how tough Kronos is, Naruto reflected. He took many attacks from my Rasengan, but almost none of them moved him. That last one caught him off guard. Or so we thought, Rhea replied coldly. She'd forgotten about Kronos mocking his opponents and feigning pain to get them relax their guard. Unfortunately, he's still not even warmed up. Naruto implored, "Please tell me you're joking." He sighed as Rhea shook her head. "No, you're not, but I suppose I should have expected that from a former Titan King." "What do you mean by former? I'm still the Titan King." Their eyes widened as they turned to see Kronos deliver a hook to Naruto, flinging him out of the hall. Rhea raised her dual tesson to block her ex-husband's scythe blade, initiating a weapons duel. Rhea had to question, "What is it?" after noticing him lift his eyebrow slightly. "You're putting up a fight," Kronos said admiringly. She was never a fighter when they were growing up and married, especially when he had his way with her. "I spent several centuries as a broken woman after you took me by force, ate our children, and sealed you away," Rhea stated venomously as she took a step forward after lowering her center. "But I found myself a new purpose, to become a strong person." Rhea folded one of her tesson and whacked Kronos in the forehead, followed by several fast strikes and a roundhouse kick to the torso. "For myself and for the man I love." After Ray's quick assault, Kronos had wedged himself out of the wall and just cracked his neck before feeling a wet sensation around his lips. When he touched them and looked at his fingers, he saw gold instead of red blood. Immortals such as the Titans and Olympians have golden ichor rather than crimson blood like mortals. The former Titan King smirked, a glint of passion in his eyes, seeing Rhea in a new light. "My dear Rhea, I had no idea you had this side to you. Perhaps I was wrong to treat you badly during our marriage. Then again, you wouldn't be hot right now if I hadn't." "Something's wrong with you," Rhea said monotonely, her face serious. "Did I really marry you?" "Yes, and I will take you back, but this time I won't let you go. Once I killed that mortal, I'll never let you out of my sight again." "You mean me?" exclaimed the ninja as he launched another attack. As Rhea approached to save him, Naruto struck his sword hard towards Kronos' scythe. "I'll let you." Rhea brushed her hand across Kronos' legs, causing him to stumble slightly. "Touch Rhea again." Kronos had hardly registered a somewhat larger version of the mortal's energy sphere slamming right upon his cheek. Naruto clenched his teeth before releasing his giant Rasengan, seeing his Titan foe get drilled out of the gymnasium along the trajectory. "Before we leave," Rhea began, clutching Naruto's arm. He gazed at her before she put her lips on his own, taking him by surprise with the quick gesture. "Thank you for entering my life." With no time to spend and a nod, Naruto and Rhea dashed out of the gymnasium to resume their joint onslaught on Kronos, who was now protecting himself with a minor swirl mark on his left cheek. Flashback concludes, Patronus? Patronus? He asks. Naruto asked Sky, who was staring at the hooded hero. He had taken refuge in her van after crossing the George Washington Bridge in the city that never sleeps. It took several hours, but they arrived. Naruto met Sky at their rendezvous place in Boston before their departure after his love session with Kuroka. He explained to the girls that going alone might draw Shield's attention. Naruto would have to adjust to his new surroundings because it was an unknown city. Sky would also have to prove herself to the ninja while they tracked down the buyer in Black Cat and recovered the relic. We're finally here, but traffic is a pain, Sky said casually as she ate a breakfast sandwich. The hacker returned his gaze and handed up a wrapped sandwich. Would you like one? No thanks, Naruto respectfully replied, receiving a shrug from Sky before concentrating on driving towards Manhattan. As the world's most densely inhabited city, New York City had no shortage of its crazy, well-known attractions and boroughs. According to Naruto's knowledge of the old city, there are 5 boroughs in total, each divided into infinitely small but famous neighborhoods. Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, the Bronx, and Manhattan are the 5 boroughs. Manhattan is divided into 3 sections: Uptown, Midtown, and Downtown Manhattan.
What baffles me is that, despite being a small borough, Manhattan is the most densely populated, Naruto said to his hacker ally. Nothing beats living in a big city. With his hand, Patronus made Thioso and so, gesture. I prefer the countryside, but everyone has their preferences. What exactly are you, a hermit? That's a first. Someone calling me a hermit. Naruto snapped his head up when he heard laughter, raucous laughter from his perverted godfather. The ninja whispered, I must be hearing things, as he tapped his head a couple of times. Nothing. Their journey took them far into Midtown Manhattan, where they parked their van in an alley after Sky cursed out some distracted drivers. There were no cameras around or within the lane, no restaurants or passing customers. It was ideal for the two.
Here, Sky said, hurling a large parchment towards Patronus after entering the van's wide section. Patronus supported the parchment. What's this? Put it over the van. But won't that draw even more attention to you? I've been doing this for the past 2 years. Well, I know stealth better than you. The hero and hacker argued for a bit before Naruto exited the van, holding quadcopter in sleep mode in his hand. Now where do I go? Patronus asks as he puts on the earpiece after reaching the ceiling with 3 high hops. Wait, where do we even start? According to local sources, Black Cat is known to be associated with one of Manhattan's superheroes. Who just happens to be? Spider-Man. Really? Naruto inquired, surprised. I never thought Spider-Man would be associated with a known thief. How did he explain that to the Avengers or S.H.I.E.L.D.?
He never did. According to rumors, the two were partners for a while after Spider-Man talked her out of thieving, and they even had a secret tryst that ended badly and Black Cat left the country for an unknown amount of time. A pause in the earbuds irritated Naruto because Sky doesn't really stop talking unless something is intriguing. Hello. What do we have here? What exactly is it? Over the last 3 months, there have been several museum heists in Europe, 3 of which fit Black Cat's MO from previous heists.
Naughty, kitty. Ignoring that corny pun, it appears Black Cat's first night back in the States was last night.
However, based on what we know about last night in Neckoheim's scuffle, Black Cat was meeting with the buyer's thugs. Clearly, someone hired her to steal the artifact, and my guess is that Black Cat will try to sell it to the buyer again here in Manhattan.
And the only person who would know her whereabouts is currently unavailable. Until now. Head to Manhattan's highest building and throw the quadcopter so I can collect data to better track him. Sky advised the hero. Come on, let's get going. Naruto looked around and noticed several tall buildings around him. He was baffled as to which of them might help Sky's goal. There are so many tall buildings around here, Sky, how am I supposed to know which one is the tallest? You truly are a caveman. That's completely uncalled for. So you say. Head to the Empire State Building down southeast from your location. You can't miss it.
Got it, Naruto said as he dashed across the rooftop after becoming invisible with Jiraiya's jutsu. Naruto was in amazement at the city's splendor as he traveled through its many blocks of buildings, restaurants, and lanes. It was a giant playground for superheroes, but more critically for ninjas like him who needed to go to a specific location in town. With that in mind, Naruto kept his speed up as he vaulted over rooftops, slid under clotheslines, and leapt easily across buildings without being noticed. Naruto landed at the edge of the building across the street after swinging himself over from a lone pipe, his target in sight. At the top of the Empire State Building, he whistled. He chuckled, "That's a big building. But I've seen bigger." "You went to Dubai?" Sure, Dubai." Naruto cocked his head as he considered Sky's comments. "What's going on, and where is Dubai?"
After a running start, the ninja sprang into the air and hooked onto the side of the Empire State Building with his chakra-coated feet before sprinting all the way to the observation decks. "What's up with the people here?" Patronus asked quietly, knowing that the earphone would catch up on everything and Sky would hear it despite the long range.
Did you know that the Empire State Building is a tourist attraction, one of the most famous tourist attractions in the world?
Alright, Patronus said as he climbed the spire to the very top of the structure. After reaching it and expertly balancing himself on one foot, he stood fearlessly in front of something incredible. A panoramic vista of New York City. "Wow, this is incredible. You can literally see the entire city from here. No wonder it's a tourist attraction." Glad you're pleased. Now let's get down to business, shall we? Sky teased. "Throw the quadcopter into the air, and it'll collect data from the wireless networks in Midtown around your location, hopefully revealing Spider-Man or Black Cat's location." "Alright then," Naruto said as he tossed the item into the air after disabling the invisibility just you. The quadcopter extended its 4 fans and hovered while it scanned frequencies and acquired data from wireless networks as Sky wrote in codes to be stored in her servers back at the van. Finally, the work was completed as the hacker's voice blared from the earpiece. "Okay. I hacked into the traffic camera security feed as well as the police scanner frequency around Midtown, and now we can hear their reports and such." "Gotcha." Sky halted when she pulled up a feed. "Oh crap. What exactly is it, Sky?" "Spider-Man is getting kicked in the $1. When Naruto heard that, his face stiffened. "By who?" "I'm not sure, but it appears he could use some backup. He's northeast from your location. To Queens." Patronus turned to face Spider-Man and peered down to gauge the distance. "By the way, how are you going to get down from the, holy crap, you're standing on the very top. What the hell?" She exclaimed, surprised, after instructing the quadcopter to focus on him. A concept, notably from the Codex, sprang to mind. Aside from the famous hidden blade, an acrobatic move that defined all assassins throughout history. "You're about to witness a lot more crazy action, like right now." "What do you mean, Patronus?" Sky exclaimed through her earpiece in shock after witnessing the video feed from her drone.
Naruto leapt off vertically and swan dived towards the ground, the wind pulling him back. The act of faith. He'd always wanted to do it since reading about it in the Codex, and what better way to do it than from the tallest skyscraper in New York City while looking for an arachnid-themed superhero. TDIIPMXTIPMXTIPM, Uzumaki Manor in the Homestead grounds. Massachusetts is forested. Rhea hummed loudly as she continued to tend to her little garden on a daily basis. It always pleased her heart to contribute to the creation of anything rather than destroy it, as her brothers preferred to do during the Golden Age. She looked to the side, where Seiko was seated on a wide blanket, cradling her children in her arms. When his mother twitched her finger at him, Ashla cooed, and Masaki giggled in response. "My precious babies," Seiko said, kissing their cheeks as a mother would do for a kid. "You're so lovely," she said as she positioned the twins on their backs, their legs kicking the air and smiles on their faces. With Naruto gone, the girls were once again alone, but this was the first time he'd been gone for a while. Naruto had kissed his children and girls and promised to return to them safely, like any good parent and lover would. His comments had always brought comfort to the girls and twins. Even the twins didn't realize it at the time, but he always follows his word.
Rhea replied sweetly as she sat down next to them. "They're always precious at that age." Ashla and Masaki squealed with delight, the boy's arms reaching for her. "May I?" Seiko smiled, and Rhea lifted up the older twin, who was laughing gleefully. "He has your eyes." "Yeah, but his looks are from his father," Seiko said, holding Masaki near to her face and allowing her to clutch a fistful of purple hair. "Thank goodness you don't look like him, Masaki," her daughter cooed as her purple eyes met her own. "But I know your daddy will wrath the boys who try to take you away from us." "I'm looking forward to seeing that," Rhea chuckled, her bosom nuzzled by Ashla. Seiko burst out laughing in answer. "So do I." They couldn't stop laughing at the thought of Naruto in Kurama mode defending a teenage Masaki from creepy-eyed males with 1,000 years of death. "Where are Medusa and Kuroka, by the way?" Seiko inquired of the two mothers as they played with the twins in the sun. "Training." "What?" Seiko asked, blinking as Rhea continued to bounce Ashla high and low. "What exactly was that?" After Naruto left after their love session, Kuroka wanted to learn new skills. According to what she told me, Kuroka is currently focusing on senjutsu and plans to focus on free running as well as hand-to-hand combat. "Is she? Are you still bothered by what happened?" Rhea noticed Ashla's eye drooping after the 15th time and stopped giving him to Seiko. The Titaness was surprised when her mother declined and beckoned for her to do it instead. "Are you sure? You're as much a mother to them as I am, and I know you didn't get to raise your own children." Seiko answered as politely as she could, hoping not to offend her friend. Rhea smiled at Seiko before lowering her top and exposing her left breast to feed Ashla with her milk. The infant boy gladly sucked on it and drank the delectable stuff. He's quite the drinker. "And a biter like his father," Seiko chuckled as she noticed Rhea cringe while feeding Ashla. "Of course, you know that." Rhea reprimanded her friend and fellow mother. "We all know that. But he seems to be more drawn to me in bed."
Sako's eye twitched as she glanced at Ray's bosom, which was being licked for milk by her kid. Naruto was clearly a breast man, with Rhea having the largest, followed by Kuroka, Medusa, and finally himself. But he never exhibited partiality to the girls because he admired them all for their distinct personalities and perspectives on life. It didn't hurt that they're all beauty bombshells.
"Keep telling yourself that." Masaki shifted her gaze between her mother and pseudo-aunt, as though she sensed a humorous yet bizarre tension between them. The youngest daughter extended her arms to her mother and raised lone hands before touching them and receiving their gaze. She cooed sadly, as if she didn't want them to be irritated with each other. Rhea and Seiko couldn't help but smile when they saw the 6-month-old's gorgeous puppy dog eyes. Masaki laughed joyously after Seiko kissed her forehead, while Rhea pulled on her nose playfully while her brother continued to eat with no other intention. "We should have known better. Naruto loves us all," Rhea stated as she shook her head. "And we love him just as much," said Seiko. The two mothers waited for Kuroka and Medusa to appear from the forest, albeit a little roughed up if their clothes were any clue. Kuroka's regular kimono bore katana slash marks, while Medusa's bore many soot stains from the Nekomata's blasts. Kuroka, on the other hand, possessed more than just senjutsu. The focused blasts used by the Nekomata were part of the yojutsu skills, but her expertise is severely insufficient due to her lack of a mentor to educate her. "Kuroka. Medusa. How was the training?" Rhea inquired, as a mother might after a long day with her children. The females exchanged glances and shrugged in a "okay" gesture. "Why don't you two sit right here?"
The tired females took their seats next to Rhea and Seiko. Ashla and Masaki shrieked as they extended their arms to be carried. Rhea and Seiko gave the twins to Medusa and Kuroka to play with after they fixed their blouses. The quartet of beautiful women spent the remainder of the day enjoying each other's company as the twins' joyful cries resonated around them. Their common significant other occupied their collective thoughts as they prayed for his safe return. Somewhere in Manhattan's midtown city of New York, New York. "Damn, do you see this, Sky? How can I not?" Patronus had arrived at Spider-Man's last known location. It was not a pleasant sight. Multiple windows, doors, and bits of various buildings littered the street for 5 blocks, as did New York police cars. While police forensics collected evidence from the scenes, witnesses spoke with the uniforms for their testimony. No sign of Spider-Man or his assailant, obviously, Naruto observed after hiding behind one of the many billboards. Sky's quadbot was hovering above him, out of sight of everyone. Where could either of them possibly be? Back home or something. Based on the video, Spider-Man got his ass kicked by this guy who happened to look like a vampire.
Really? I wish I could see the video. Sky chuckled through the earphone. What exactly is it? Funny you should mention that. Look at the quadcopter. Naruto moved his gaze to the descending quadcopter and watched as a small compartment opened, revealing a rectangular device. Equals that, my dear Patronus, is one of the newest models of the smartphone, personalized by yours truly. Equals Sky boasted. I've just sent you the video file. Okay, Patronus said hesitantly, pressing various buttons until he was able to open the video file and hold it horizontally to watch it. The video showed Spider opponent fighting a rather large opponent in a trench coat as their battle previously spilled across the street below. As fast as Spider-Man appeared to be in the video, his adversary was far faster and much stronger, judging by the sequence in which the hero was smashed through one of the buildings. The broadcast transitioned to exterior cameras of a deli, where Spider-Man battled his foe for some time before the kitchen erupted, with flames fleeing the windows. That didn't look good for Spider-Man. I'll have to find him. Equals, are you certain that's a good idea right now? He'll be tense when you meet him. Equals. He's the only one who might know where Black Cat is, and it'll also help that we helped save his life from a killer, Patronus said as he pocketed the phone. First, we've got to find something to track him with.
The quadcopter is picking up a single frequency in the area. It's faint, but it's there.
How long will it take? As long as it can take.
Patronus' hooded head shook. I don't like it, he muttered dismissively until a thought struck him. It's time to employ one of my methods. Equals, which is, equals. Later, Sky, could you hack the traffic feeds and try to find Spider-Man's assailant? It'd be nice to know where he is, preferably away from the web slinger.
Equals, I'll get right to work. As he reached the burning building where Spider-Man's last known location, Naruto witnessed the quadcopter leave the area. Patronus jumped across the street and entered the building just as the firemen were leaving, inspecting the burnt kitchen for any clues. Nothing. Perhaps outside, Naruto pondered before venturing out into the alley. Because it was coated with glass and concrete rubble, his odds of discovering Spider-Man were poor. Or not. Time to see if it works. Kurama, are you ready? I'm always prepared. The question is, are you? Of course I am, says the speaker.
Patronus closed his eyes and concentrated on his senses, all 5 of them. He opened his eyes, and while no one could see them, a pair of orange light bluish gleamed within his hood, the only sign that he had eyes at all. Patronus looked around and noticed that his surrounds were shining in some way, a light gray tone with small snowflakes of black. To see if it succeeded, the ninja searched the alley for any signs that the authorities might have missed. They succeeded. Naruto became aware of a subtle ruby-red glow behind a shattered wood crate near a pair of trash cans. It was a red and blue fabric with a crimson glow smear on it. His eyes was drawn upwards, where he noticed a trail of the blood-red flame leading to the rooftop.
Going up, Patronus said as he sprang to the roof. He looked around for the route and followed it all the way to the edge. That's when he spotted the various aura colors of the people below. Navy blue for the cops, white for passing citizens, and crimson red for the blood he's tracing. So far, so good.
Looks like you were right, Naruto. To be honest, I didn't think it'd work, but I'm glad it does, Naruto admitted. Although I've only recently developed it. Ashura added his 2 cents. Time will tell if it evolves from here. Most likely, Naruto replied with a shrug. But, what should we call it?
How about Kistune Vision? Says one. You're egotistical, aren't you? Ashura mocked the tailed beast. Oh, you actually are.
Naruto considered it, but realized it wouldn't be possible without Kurama's assistance and the inspiration he found in the codex. The assassin's eagle vision extrasensory ability allowed them to recognize comrades, opponents, clues, and so on. Eagle vision appeared to be similar to the Hyuga clan's Byakugan, albeit the latter appeared to be more powerful because their ancestors dated back to Hagoromo's younger twin brother, Hamura Otsutsuki.
Even still, it was astonishing for people like the assassins to develop such a skill. The codex even included family trees for each assassin, particularly those who received eagle vision, such as Connor's family, who descended directly from the American branch mentor who had resurrected the Brotherhood during the colonial era. Naruto had begun to build his own sense since learning about eagle vision, but he needed Kurama's assistance. Kurama's negative emotion sensing is a sensory skill he already possesses. Naruto then used the sensory abilities as a basis and gradually increased the sensation around the homestead and on the females. I prefer Kitsune sense to Kitsune vision, Naruto replied, interrupting his companion's argument. I actually like that, Kurama snorted, while Ashura rolled his eyes as Naruto proceeded on his walk. TTIIPMXTTIIPMXTTIIPM, at a later date, Web Core Building, Manhattan Uptown. With that done, Naruto continued to use the newly christened Kitsune sense to follow the path. It wasn't simple because the trail was, for lack of a better phrase, irregular, and it was also the first time Naruto used Kitsune sense without Kurama's assistance. As he followed the trail past buildings and barriers deemed toys by his people, Naruto found himself standing in front of a building entitled Webcore, which had a single and open panoramic window, with a line of web next to it. Patronus shunshined to the window and discovered his target conversing with an elderly man in a suit. "Am I crashing the party?" he joked as his vision restored to normal after departing Kitsune sense. "Brog." When Spider-Man lunged at him, Patronus rolled out of the path and raised his arms in surrender. "Whoa, whoa, Spider-Man, I'm on your side here," he begged, hoping the web-slinger would listen and calm down. Spider-Man towered over Patronus. Naruto had examined the web-slinger's costume while watching the movie earlier. His outfit was largely blue and skin-tight, with crimson gloves, boots, the midsection, and, finally, the mask. The red elements of the outfit were covered with black web designs, beginning with the mask, with a black spider in the center of the chest and a different-looking red spider on the back. On the mask, dual lenses with a chrome coating served as eyes.
The costume was now in shambles. The upper back section was devoid of anything, exposing his bare back as the upper portion of his right leg and the bottom portion of his left leg were both devoid of anything while the mask remained intact except for tufts of brown hair.
"Yeah. Then why is my spider sense going crazy near you?" Spider-Man screamed, clearly weary from his earlier encounter. "You're working for him, aren't you? Admit it."
"Spider sense," Naruto repeated before adding, "Look, I'm not with that guy who turned you into his personal punching bag, and in case you're wondering how I'd know that, it was on the news." Spider-Man remained vigilant yet just slightly relaxed. "Who exactly are you?"
"Patronus," Sims replied for the hooded vigilante, drawing the latter's notice as well as Spider-Man's. "How quaint to meet you."
Patronus replied tentatively, "Can't say the same since I don't know you." "Where are my manners?" "Ezekiel Sims at your service," the barefoot man said, bowing slightly. "You've traveled a long distance from Boston, what brings you here?" "Him," Patronus said, pointing to Spider-Man, who tightened up as he saw his finger on him. "It can wait, boy, now we have to focus on stopping that guy from killing you." Spider-Man scoffed and took a step back. "We? Who are we? I don't know who you are in." Ezekiel interjected, "But I do. And you know who I am." "Barely." Naruto exhaled deeply and rested his hands on his hips. After what he'd gone through, he expected this from Spider-Man. He'd probably say the same thing. "Spider-Man," he said, looking at him. "Have you ever met that guy before?" "No," Spider-Man finally responded after some hesitation. He only responded to the cloak vigilante when his spider sense had diminished.
"Any reason to kill you? Revenge? Psychopath? Which is it?"
"None of the above, not even a personal reason," Spider-Man said as he gripped his ribs. "Just that I'm pure and should be able to sustain him for a while." Did this guy consider what he said before saying it? I had the same thought, but it didn't bother him.
"So, what did he mean about you being pure?" After Ezekiel raised his arm, the young couple gazed at him. "I can explain that part." "Please do," Patronus replied as Spider-Man raised his arms to prevent Ezekiel from spilling the beans. "Hold on," screamed the arachnid-themed hero. "What makes you think we can put our trust in him? Although his words have hurt me, I have to admit that he is correct. How can you trust me so easily?" Ezekiel sighed and shrugged. "I've been watching you for a while now, Patronus, and your work in Boston is impressive for someone so new to this life. Good job, by the way, on saving the mayor and his family." "That was you?" Spider-Man inquired, surprised by the novice. Patronus cynically remarked to Ezekiel, "You sound surprised. Explain. Right now." A dazzling flare in the distance illuminated the Webcore building after an explosion plummeted smoke like a mushroom cloud, grabbing their attention. "It's him," Ezekiel said solemnly as Spider-Man leapt from the window and fired a web line at the place. Patronus, on the other hand, remained motionless. "You're not going?" "I will," Patronus answered wisely, "but I need to know about my enemy before unleashing hell." In his youth, he was arrogant and charged into battle, but he got out of that habit during the war. He will brush that aside at times and strike his opponents with full force. But this isn't one of those instances. Where should I start? Patronus said before Ezekiel gave him the name he and Spider-Man would remember for the rest of their lives, a name. Morlun. His name is Morlun. TTIIPMXTTIIPMXTTIIPM. Manhattan's Midtown, don't dare. Don't you freaking dare. Spider-Man has just arrived at a scene of devastation and turmoil brought about by the person who had been pursuing him. Overturned automobiles and fires littered the street as panicked residents fled for their own safety. The person responsible for all of this was there in front of him, clutching a weeping infant.
Morlun. He was taller than the web slinger and possessed vampire-like pale skin, red-yellow eyes, and black sclera. His wild, long black hair fluttered in the breeze. His clothing was the same as previously supposed, with no wounds or signs of damage. It was a dark blue suit with a black border, a white dress shirt, white collars around the wrists, and a soft sky blue shirt below the dress shirt. Morlun hardly seemed to notice his victim's presence as he stared back and forth between the child in his grip and his prey before doing what the latter ordered. He tossed the infant away like trash. To prevent damage, his victim lunged to grasp him.
Exactly like he expected. Spider-Man barely made it to safety before ducking his fist and countering with his own. Morlun seemed unfazed as he pounded his hammer fists into Spider-Man's spine, causing him to stagger and bend his knees under the strain. But Spider-Man remained standing and continued to strike them with all of his strength.
After a flurry of punches and kicks, the web slinger was hit in the face with a right cross and crashed against a nearby store's wall, but he immediately released himself and raced at Morlun again. Spider-Man used even more strength than previously to land a body hit on his opponent's chest, barely knocking him down.
I need to beef up my attacks, Spider-Man shouted internally as his spider sense blared as he performed several backflips to avoid Morlun's attack.
Please accept your fate, Totem, it'll be better for both of us. Morlun was already on top of Spider-Man after landing from the previous backflip. He performed a sharp high kick from an incredibly low angle with rapid thinking, which would not have been feasible without his improved agility and durability. A minor shockwave emitted from the point of contact, which was Spider-Man's leg connecting to Morlun's barely inclined upwards jaw. My turn, then. Morlun seized Spider-Man's outstretched leg and slammed him against a wall, then the roof of a car, denting it with the force, before finishing him off on the concrete street. Not yet, Spider-Man sighed. His arms sprang out as two web lines grabbed and yanked on cars on opposite sides of the street. Morlun didn't move before the automobiles smashed into him on both sides, but Spider-Man didn't stop there, moving towards a lone beam and wielding it like a baseball bat, hitting his enemy's back, forcing him to bend forward ever so slightly. It's starting to work. If I keep hitting him, then, you. When a hand gripped his throat, his thought was cut short. Morlun stared at his target, trying to get him to release his grip, but it didn't work. He now has him. His pure totemic force will prolong his life because he, like his family, is an inheritor and nothing can stop him now. Ekin. Except for a forceful clutch of wind to the face that sent him flying down the street while his grip on his victim accidentally let go.
Morlun nonchalantly walked back where he was hit and spotted a black-hooded stranger with a sword on his back assisting Spider-Man back to his feet after he awoke from a flaming car with no connected injuries. And who are you to interfere with my hunt? He inquired gently, his voice tinged with hate. Just a traveler, Morlun, Patronus said nonchalantly, drawing a raised eyebrow from the person in question. I have business with Spidey here, and he's no good to me, so why don't you move along, vampire? He motioned his hand towards the inheritor in a shoo-shoo motion. Go back to your coffin, cave, or wherever you vampires sleep during the day. Strange that you know my name despite our first meeting, but as you humans say, you watch too many vampire movies. Morlun cracked his knuckles after gently flexing them. I'll have to kill you first as an appetizer, then for the main course, because I adore the young ones. He got two blank stares from the two heroes as they stared at each other, then him and each other several times more until they pointed at him. Do you even think about what you say? You're a real Class A freak, Patronus and Spider-Man yelled, laughing. Morlun remarked ominously, ending his praise chuckle session, I am going to enjoy feasting on your flesh.
Patronus simply laughed in response to the challenge. You'll have to catch us first, he said as he quickly drew out and threw a smoke pellet in front of him and his colleague.
Morlun remained undaunted even after the smoke cleared and his targets vanished, but it didn't matter because he can track the totem wherever and at any time. TTIIPMX TTIIPMX TTIIPM. The tired Spider-Man was blurring across the New York skyline and traversing the rooftops, web swinging with utmost accuracy and speed as a result of years of practice and training away from possibly his most dangerous and formidable enemy besides a certain goblin. Nothing could stymie him until he forgot about Patronus. Crap, now I've got to. What the hell? What's up, Spider-Man? Patronus questioned as he sprinted across the several rooftops parallel to Spider-Man with the speed of a normal person. He was keeping up with his web swinging. Who the hell are you? Just a traveler in need of your assistance, Patronus replied with absolute certainty and a straight face as he jumped over rooftops and high buildings with ease while sliding under barriers that impeded his field of vision. Kinda fighting for my life, you know. I know that, Naruto exclaimed, clearly annoyed. He hadn't expected to be fighting an opponent so soon, but he should have remembered that New York City attracts both heroes and criminals. That was Morlun, huh? Are you sure he's not a vampire? I'm pretty sure he responded about not being one back there. Just saying, Patronus murmured loudly as he and Spider-Man landed on a skyscraper that appeared to be shaped like a pizza. The cloaked shinobi approached the front and noticed the enormous inscriptions before reading them. Daily Bugle, who would work at such a place? Naruto didn't notice the arachnid superhero stiffening as he said those words because he had his back turned. Despite his tiredness, Spider-Man coughed into his hand. People who are passionate about helping those close to them, he said under his breath. What exactly was that? Nothing. Naruto shrugged and put his finger to his finger beneath the hood to summon his hacker pal. Sky, can you hear me? Loud and clear. Whatever you did, the cops are on high alert, and the police scanner is overflowing with reports. I take it you met Spider-Man's stalker. Equals. A vampire from the looks of it, Patronus replied, palming Spider-Man's face. Do you happen to know where he is? No dice. It appears that this Morlun character is, after all, a creature of the night. Equals. I'm going to need you to do something for me. Equals, which is. Equals. Sky waited for Patronus to tell her what he required. Equals, I'm not sure why, but I hope you have a plan that won't get you killed. I'd hate to be the only hacker vigilante who gets fired after just one day. Equals. Get to it, Naruto said as he turned around to face Spider-Man, before the communicators cackled. Okay, we have a numerical advantage. We have that going for us now, and I can sneak up on him and... That's not going to work, Spider-Man said to the rookie vigilante. Once you make physical contact with him, he can track either of us no matter where we are. Morlun will find us and, he was smacked on the head by an irritated Patronus. What the? That attitude will get us nowhere. Fortunately, I didn't actually touch Morlun, and I also have a plan in motion. Spider-Man blinked numerous times as something perplexed him. Why didn't my spider sense react? Do I see this guy as an ally? He wondered before asking, what do you mean by that? I didn't even touch him. Then how do you? He screamed in agony, his hands gripped about his masked head, as the spider sense rung loudly. He's here. Patronus said after activating his kitsune sense. I see him. He noticed a deadly purple-black aura around their approaching foe. Man, this guy is evil and flying. He also made a mental note of Spider-Man's aura being gold with a silver outline immediately before deactivating his new assassin-inspired sense. He can fly. Apparently so, Naruto said simply before throwing another smoke pellet to the ground to hide their movements as he and Spider-Man made their swift getaway by free running and web swinging, respectively, with Morlun hot on their tails. TTIIPMX TTIIPMX TTIIPM. The helicarrier of S.H.I.E.L.D. Manhattan Island from above. Captain America traveled through the VTOL-capable carrier's many corridors and halls. Nick Fury summoned him to discuss another task for him to take on. When Captain America entered the enormous rectangular conference room, he was hailed by the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. and one of his oldest friends and allies of the modern era. As he removed his mask, Captain America said, Tony. Tony replied curtly, Steve. Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, had light skin, a neat beard, and short black hair, with riddled age scars around his eyes. He wore a crimson and gold mechanical suit of armor that appeared to be too big and light for him to move in battle. On the table, a helmet, mask with small lenses as eyes was opened for him to see through. What exactly is this, Fury? I know things are tense between you two, but now isn't the time, Fury said, pressing a button that activated the holographic panel on the wall behind him. which displayed a still photo of a single black figure whose head and face were totally obscured by a hood. "Here's your mission." "Who is he?" Tony inquired. "Did you know that this is Boston's own residential hero, Patronus?" Tony expressed his interest in Latin by saying, "Latin? Interesting. What does he have to do with us? What does S.H.I.E.L.D. want from him?"
On July 15, at 2100 hours, SWORD detected a breach 40 miles outside of Boston, Massachusetts. "We sent in a team to investigate and contain the perimeter. Said team engaged a hostile presence shortly after their arrival, which quickly vanished."
Let me pause there. Do you believe Patronus has anything to do with the breach? Tony questioned skeptically. "You and I both know that there are many people in our world who are capable of opening breaches and portals to other worlds. After all, we have an Asgardian god on our team." Steve added angrily, "Used to. Keep in mind that S.H.I.E.L.D. is investigating and keeping tabs on all those with the capability," Fury said later. Patronus added himself to that list when he saved Boston's mayor and his family from Crossbones.
"So, what exactly do you want us to do?" "I want both of you to find Patronus and bring him here so that we can question him." Tony and Fury both looked at a resolute Steve and said, "No. Patronus has done nothing wrong since his heroic debut, he has broken no laws, and Boston is safer under his protection."
"You kept tabs on him?" Tony inquired slyly. "Are you certain you haven't done anything wrong?"
Steve avoided looking at his former teammate. "I won't do it, Director Fury. Patronus is doing great work, and I won't do anything that will jeopardize our chances of building trust with him." "What exactly do you mean by that?" Captain America said nothing else as he saluted the director and exited the conference room, leaving the others behind. He was a firm believer in liberty and fairness. Patronus seems to share these values, as did all of the other heroes he knows, including Spider-Man, Black Widow, and Falcon. Perhaps he can bring a new perspective to the team he intends to form. Someone who could connect with the others. But first he must acquire Patronus' trust. TDIIPMXDIPMXDIPM, New York Port, Manhattan's Lower East Side and downtown.
"Does this guy have a tire? I should be asking you that," Spider-Man exclaimed after yanking on his web line to drag himself aloft to avoid Morlun's fist. Morlun was replaced by a billboard since it was easily demolished, and he did not react to the agony. Patronus jumped over an air conditioner and threw many shuriken. Morlun didn't seem fazed by the shuriken, which bounced off his superhuman skin like nothing. Well, that didn't work. Patronus' pursuit came to a stop when he threw a third smoke pellet to obscure his and Spider-Man's movements.
Patronus, I believe you are at the port. Yeah, thanks. Patronus nodded, taking a brief look around his surroundings. Perfect. Are you sure about this? From the looks of it in the video, he's not affected by anything. Sky said while viewing the quadcopter's live broadcast.
Patronus made a so-and-so motion with his hand. More, or less. Notice the confidence in my voice. Sky retorted sarcastically via the earpiece.
Sure. Gotta go. Who were you talking to? Spider-Man asked, breathing deeply as he took deep breaths to rehydrate his body.
My friend. Has she been listening this whole time? After a while, Patronus eventually murmured, "Oops." He used his kitsune sense to calm the web-slinger with a raised hand while the surroundings around him changed colors again. Morlun's shimmering black-purple aura could be seen on the other side of the warehouse, not far away, as he walked leisurely like it was a stroll. He has the ability to see past barriers. Although the aura appeared to be blurred, he could barely perceive it in comparison to Spider-Man's, who was standing next to him. Note to self. Improve kitsune sense so that I can possibly read their minds.
I can hear you, Totem. When the Inheritor spoke for the first time in a long time, both heroes tensed.
Whenever I hunt one of you, I can hear your heartbeat. You totems, no matter how powerful or experienced you are in a constant state of fear. Your heartbeat beats into a rhythm that my family and I enjoy right up until the moment we lay our hands on you. Family? Wondered both Spider-Man and Patronus at the same time. Are there more like him? However, your colleague tells a different story. Morlun began his monologue, and the heroes exchanged a glance. I assumed he was one of the pitiful humans who was over his head intervening in my meal. Patronus maintained an eye on Morlun's aura as the latter appeared to turn the bend away from them. Why? Because he came to a halt before making the final turn with his back to them. Does he know where we are? His closed eyes widened as he remembered Morlun's previous statements. Crap, he can hear Spider-Man's heartbeat.
When Spider-Man observed his accomplice reaching for the katana's handle on his back, he knew it was time to prepare.
Even now, his heartbeat is calm and steady, which intrigues me. I admit I've never met a human like him, and I eagerly await the opportunity to consume his life essence before yours, Totem. Jump! Patronus yelled urgently as he and Spider-Man leapt to the ceiling beams above, just as Morlun slammed through the warehouse wall, scattering debris across the vast room.
Hiding in the shadows can only postpone the inevitable.
So can this. Spider-Man saw as four little lights flared around his adversary before chains sprang from them. They wrapped themselves around Morlun's arms and legs before being taunted, restricting him. What the hell? His stunned gaze was drawn to Patronus, who was holding his left index and middle fingers together in front of him as if making a hand sign. Morlun didn't seem concerned as he examined the chains and gently tugged on them to assess their strength. Do you think these can really hold me?
So and so, Morlun ordered stoically aloud for his prey to hear. Free me and allow me to feast on you. He may not be able to see them, but he can hear their heartbeats.
No, thanks. So be it. Morlun stiffened his limbs, and the shackles snapped from the force of the action. Patronus, on the other hand, was already in front of him and slashed Tenkaichi's blade across Morlun's chest. The mysterious inheritor felt a strange sensation on his torso and looked down to see a cascade of red liquid. He was injured.
Naruto was also astonished, but remembered the metal he used to construct Tenkaichi. Leaving that for later, Patronus whirled around and whacked Morlun across the face with the flat side of the katana.
Spider-Man watched in disbelief as a rookie propelled the opponent he had been fighting out of the warehouse. Is Patronus more powerful than him? How did he get so close to him? Wait a minute. He wounded him. There's blood on his sword. This is our opportunity. Spider-Man approached him and extended his hand for the blade. Give me the sword. Why? Patronus inquired, tilting his head and concealing Tenkaichi behind him.
Spider-Man said, his blood is on your sword. Patronus sighing exasperatedly as his head tilted farther in response. If I can analyze it, I'll figure out a way to beat him.
Patronus examined the katana and the experienced superhero before going for the latter's left arm and ripping off the remnants of his outfit. Ignoring Spider-Man's objection, Patronus wiped the blood on the rag and handed it to him. Get moving. I'll keep him at bay for as long as I can. I'm not sure those chains of yours will do much. The wall crawler grumbled as he sat on the remnants of his costume, but I'll be back as soon as I can. The blood sample was webbed slung out of there by the torn hero. Those seals aren't the only things that can help me. Patronus glanced around to see Morlun strutting back to him, his footsteps slightly louder. Did I irritate you, vampire, or is the sun bothering you? He inquired, nonchalantly whirling Tenkaichi. The former, actually. Good, Patronus said from beneath his hood, a tiny glow just around his torso, an indicator of his chakra growing. I haven't let myself go in a long time.
The warehouse was shortly demolished within by the combined clash of the two superpowered entities, which was accompanied by a massive shockwave ring.
TTIIPMX TTIIPMX TTIIPM. Meanwhile, uptown Manhattan, Upper West Side. A pretty lavish apartment complex loomed among the many towering skyscrapers of the famed New York skyline while its tenants, whether single or married, enjoyed their time within. You either make it or break it in New York City. One single tenant was thought to be the pinnacle of that area of life. The building's doorman greeted various residents as they entered or went while remaining conscious of his daily activities. His mood was lifted further when he noticed a familiar face entering a cab that had stopped in front of the building. Well, hello there, Ms. Hardy. Please call me Felicia. Felicia Hardy was a stunning woman with long, straight golden hair that fell just below her shoulders. Her green eyes were stunning as they grew brighter with each blink. She wore a white shirt and a loose green skirt that reached her ankles and did not disguise her curvy shape. Felicia was a blonde bombshell who drew the ire of jealous husbands and girlfriends as well as the passionate gazes of their significant others. However, one person lifted her heart after her incident years ago, but he now belongs to someone else. Felicia shook her head as she entered the elevator and again as she entered her luxurious apartment. She'd never had to be concerned because her job relied on an alternate cash stream. After an uncomfortable interruption to a business conference in Boston, she settled into her Victorian-style couch. Felicia had never seen or met anyone with two tails like the female she fought the night before, despite encountering all types of beings throughout her work and with the one that got away. And that's saying something. Felicia mumbled as she examined her new property. "You're probably involved in this, I'm sure." Felicia switched on the flat-screen television to catch up on American news. Imagine her astonishment when a specific news reporter launched another smear campaign against an arachnid-themed superhero she knows well. Her amazement turned to shock when a video of Spider-Man being tossed around like a chew toy by someone she had never seen or heard before appeared alongside the reporter. Furthermore, a snapshot of a black hooded man appeared alongside the video. "Yep, New York City is still the same," Felicia remarked once she had recovered from her shock. Still, she couldn't get her mind off Spider-Man.
TDIIPMXDIPMXDIPM, Queens, Forest Hills, New York City's Queens.
"Achoo!" exclaimed the uncovered superhero before writhing in pain. When he returned home, his rag of a costume lay on the floor while he provided first aid to his bleeding wounds with large white bandages stretched around his chest and rib areas. Damn it. Note to self, Peter. Break the damn Parker luck someday.
The uncostumed Spider-Man was a muscled man with short brown hair and hazel eyes who wore only his boxers. With an ice pack over his swollen right eye, Spider-Man, aka Peter Parker, took a microscope from his closet and placed it on the bedside next to him.
"I may not be Reed Richards, but by God, I'm a scientist, and I've got the equipment to prove it." Sitting on his comfortable bed, Peter glanced through the lenses and set the scope to maximum. His blood is an amalgam of every type of cell: animal, bird, human, and insect. It's the purest form of DNA I've ever seen. He got out of bed and walked back to his closet. That explains how he can go after me or anyone else who Ezekiel described as a totem.
Peter encountered Ezekiel during one of his nocturnal patrols to release stress from everyday frustrations, based on his earlier discussion after one stunning first meeting.
He later met the older totem when he made a big donation to the Midtown Science School, where Peter was the new science teacher. They met for coffee, and Ezekiel explained that Peter's talents were metaphysical in nature. The spider who bit Peter had selected him to be the avatar of the Great Weaver, and therefore Spider-Man. If my guess is correct, Morlun's cells degrade over time and require periodic recharging from a source life form in each category, Peter mused aloud as he pulled out a backup suit. "The purer the source, the stronger the charge," he explained. "That's why he wants me. Ezekiel believes I'm closer to this totemistic source." He halted after donning the body and gloves. "The truth is, I've never fully accepted his story." Peter went on with the rest of his costume. "Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but one thing I know for certain. I am not as pure as Morlun thinks I am, and that may be my only chance to beat him," Peter asserted confidently as he removed his mask. "Hopefully, that Patronus guy is still alive." With that in mind, Spider-Man launched a web and swung towards the port where he last saw Patronus, hopefully alive when he arrives. TTIIPMXTTIIPMXTTIIPM New York Port, Manhattan Island, Lower East Side. "Don't let him touch you. Once he makes physical contact with you, he'll find you wherever you are." As the ninja fought Morlun, Ezekiel's words played over and over in his thoughts. Naruto was torn about how to face an opponent who might come after his family, but he realized that Ryozanpaka had taught him a multitude of skills and methods that would allow him to fight without actually contacting Morlun with his arms or legs.
Patronus jumped backwards to avoid another Morlun grab attempt. "Too easy."
Morlun inquired rhetorically as he flung an abandoned automobile at him. "Will this make things difficult?" Patronus stabbed at the approaching automobile while still standing in the same place. Patronus assumed one of the positions given to him by Shizune back in the Soul Universe as the divided machine fell on both sides of him. For individuals who wield the blade, both past and present generations, there are three basic but critical positions. The first was the high stance, which emphasizes offense by focusing attack power and aggression while restricting blocking and dodging abilities. The low stance, on the other hand, focuses on evasion, dodging, and fast attacks once the user is behind her opponent's back. Finally, the mid stance, which balances parts of both the high and low stances, improves blocking and allows one to timing their movements and attack capabilities. Patronus was standing with his sword in front of him, his feet shoulder length apart. The mid position is his favored position, plus a little insurance or two. Morlun questioned stoically as he ran towards his opponent. "Why do humans mutter before their death? It's something I never understood about your kind," he managed to remark before being pushed back by Patronus's sword's tremendous burst of wind. "Again with the wind. Do you honestly believe you can hurt me with an elemental attack? You were lucky with the first blow. and I assure you it will not happen again." Patronus chuckled, smirking beneath his beaked hood. "Who said that was an elemental attack?" he asked, pointing the tip right towards Morlun's chest. "Come at me with all you've got." "With great pleasure." Morlun stood vigil from now on, pushing his invulnerability to its full capacity, and the port trembled with each touch between fist and blade. Patronus and Morlun matched blow for blow, much to Morlun's surprise. He never expected to face a human with the same strength as his target, or even his own. This is quite intriguing. Patronus was almost on the boat of thought when he collided again, exhaling a forceful stream of wind to shove himself away from Morlun. "Oh no, you don't." Morlun's foot dug into the earth, leaving a little footprint dent behind as he rushed towards Patronus and slashed his sharp nails through him. "Through him?" says the narrator. To Morlun's surprise, the astonished Patronus stood there before shuddering out of existence. Patronus murmured from behind, "Too slow." Morlun lashed out with such force that he slashed the air, but his backhand sailed wide. "Actually, there are multiple targets. My. That's an interesting trick, human." The Patronus clones surrounded him in the port, all of their blades pointing towards him. They didn't move, which gave Morlun time to grasp a lone metal beam and swing it like a bat against all the clones. The clones flashed out of his view instead of making physical contact, as they had done previously. "Thank you, Hayato-sensei, for the Bunshin technique," Patronus thought as he concealed from Morlun in a vantage point atop a crane tower. "How long will Spider-Man take? I hope he didn't leave me hanging." Incoming. Patronus heeded Kurama's warning and focused his wind chakra through his sword's blade before throwing it at the thrown beam's target, successfully severing it in half. As seawater splashed about the port, the two beams dropped to the harbor below. "Now for the big ugly," Patronus stated as he met Morlun's charge with a shunshin, catching the latter off guard with his sudden increase in speed. His blade collided with Morlun's fists, causing a clash even as they dropped to the earth but landed safely. Their conflict exchanged blows, but none penetrated the other's defense, as Patronus predicted. Morlun, on the other hand, was not delighted, and because the source of his annoyance was in the hands of his adversary, he chose to impair his well-being. Morlun grasped Tenkaichi's blade with both hands after a swing, and Patronus' eyes widened. He used all of his power to pull it free, but Morlun's death hold on the blade was so firm that his hands began to bleed as drops of the crimson liquid fell to the ground. "It's time for this to end," Morlun said. Patronus was smirking at Morlun, even though he couldn't see it. "I don't think so," he said, throwing out his left arm and extending his golden hidden blade, which he wielded like a knife by twisting it with his fingers downwards. Patronus jabbed it into Morlun's right arm as quickly as he could. "Gah!" Morlun shouted, letting go of the blade to grab his bleeding hand. "He has another weapon, but it can actually harm me even if I'm alert." "Thank you, Pivot Blade." Because each brotherhood had its own kind of the hidden blade, its members may either upgrade or stick with the original. Naruto had picked the pivot blade for the left hidden blade bracer because it is the most important. To effectively wield the pivot blade, Naruto had to develop his left arm to be as powerful as his right arm back at the Homestead. Patronus and Morlun circled each other like a pair of lions poised to battle for the leadership of the Pride, Tenkaichi and the pivot blade at the ready. That is, until a semi-truck fell from the skies and slammed into Morlun. "Damn," Patronus said simply as the culprit landed close to him. "Do you feel better?"
Surprisingly, yes, Spider-Man acknowledged. Patronus nodded with agreement after inspecting the extra suit. "Yep, that's better than the old one." He chuckled, attempting to lighten the mood.
Spider-Man, to his amazement, chuckled. "Thank you so much. I've been saving this one for a special occasion like this."
Patronus laughed as he drew his blade and wiped the blood on the pivot blade with a towel. "Let's go." While he and Spider-Man departed the port to get away from Morlun, he returned the pivot blade to its hidden blade mode as it retracted within the sleeve. "I assume you know how to beat him."
"Yes, I do. TTIIPMX TTIIPMX TTIIPM, nighttime, nuclear power plant in southern New York." "Patronus, please tell him he's an idiot." "Sky says you're an idiot," Patronus said solemnly, "and I must say that I agree with her."
"You had no idea what radiation was until a few minutes ago."
The two heroes had traveled to the plant as Spider-Man informed him of Morlun's pure DNA, his status as a totem, and their link. When radiation was addressed, both Spider-Man and Sky gave Naruto a science lecture he would never forget. "Yes, and I now do. I can tell you that putting your body in danger is risky and reckless. And aren't we already exposed to this by being here? The radiation is held within a chamber of the plant, and they have several shutdown protocols in case of a leak. Despite his concern, Spider-Man explained. He returned his gaze to Patronus, who appeared to be doubtful of his intentions. Look, I appreciate your assistance, but I have to do this. It's up to me and him. There is no other option. I have to put an end to this. I can't go inside because I'm concerned about the radiation, but I can protect the perimeter in case Morlun escapes and you don't. Spider-Man had to concede that it was a sound strategy. That sounds wonderful to me. Here's to the success of my plan. He raised his hand, and Patronus shook it before going to guard the plant's perimeter. With this in mind, the spider totem crept into the plant until it came across a circuit box. He wrenched it open and discovered multiple wires and buttons that were connected to various rooms throughout the plant. Spider-Man used his natural intelligence to loosen the selected cables and... Blair, 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 hi. This is the plant supervisor. You have been told to evacuate immediately. I repeat. Evacuate the facilities immediately. Equals. Spider-Man glanced out the window that overlooked the main hallway towards the radiation chamber as many employees rushed out of the plant as fast as they could without collapsing. There we have it. There was only one simulated meltdown and no one to get in the way. I estimate that it will take 3 hours or less for federal emergency crews to get inside and determine that it was a false alarm. Spider-Man reflected as he stood at the door that held the key to his survival or doom. Spider-Man began to work with the harmful chemicals that are kept within their containers as he entered the area wearing a radiation suit over his costume. TTIIPMX TTIIPMX TTIIPM 64th Sector. Morlun strode past the wall that protected the facilities from attackers as if it were nothing. Behind him stood a human man dressed in a trench coat, but with the eyes of an ancient man and a shadow around his chin. Hey, come on, stop. Morlun and his companion both looked to the left as a security guard approached them. Put your hands in a position where I can see them. Dex, how come he's telling me to stop? I'm not sure. Morlun. As the guard leveled his revolver on them, Dex hesitated. Now, get down on the ground and, gawk. Morlun inspected the guard in his hold before casually flicking his wrist, instantly snapping the neck. He let go of him and glanced at the wall in front of him, where his prey awaited on the other side. He's on the inside. Please wait for me. Yes, Morlun. It's time to call it quits. Then I'm going to go after that Patronus guy and teach him a lesson about interfering with my supper. Morlun stated after discovering no trace of the second hero. AAA AG GGGHHHHH, someone yelled from within the structure.
Morlun heard this and smashed his fist through the wall, allowing him to enter the chamber. Curious, I thought I heard something. When he looked up to the balcony, he saw his victim lying on the floor, unresponsive to his presence. Ah, it appears that I did. Not that it will mean much to you in your current state, but the energy I steal from you the minute you die, the pure spider within you, will feed me for at least another 100 years.
He came to a halt right before his victim. So, while your sacrifice was unavoidable and unwelcome, at least it was for a good cause. Morlun took hold of the front of Spider-Man's outfit. Nothing to say? He took note of the unconscious totem. Up until now, you've been speaking for both of us. I don't have your talent. I'm not sure what to say, except, he seizes Spider-Man's head. Goodbye.
Cue the grayish-yellow glow from his hand and the masked head of his target.
Og. Morlun shrieked in agony before hurling Spider-Man away. Get the hell away from me, he demanded, terrified, while staring at his glowing hand. I'm not sure what. Typical, isn't it? Spider-Man rose to his knees gently. Injecting a vial of radioactive fluid into his body caused him excruciating pain. They surprise you just when you think you know them. You wanted to feed on the spider in me because it was pure. Like straight from the spider's mouth. But there is one thing that distinguishes me, Morlun. Spider-Man drew all his strength and launched a right cross into Morlun's cheek. I'm not pure. Morlun felt the same unbelievable pain from the latest attack, which was increased by Spider-Man's assault of punches and kicks, all propelled by the radiation he injected into himself.
What exactly is this? This agony. Spider-Man grabbed Morlun's suit and pulled him towards him before headbutting him sharply at the chin and landing a front kick. After the kick, his opponent tumbled over the railing, and Spider-Man didn't let up, jumping over and landing in front of him to continue striking like Morlun had done before him, and that's when he discovered something.
With each attack on Morlun, the radiation leaves his body. Instead of his life force being absorbed, the radiation he injected into himself absorbs the fall, and Morlun chokes on it. "Get the hell away from me, ung!" Morlun screamed in agony after being beaten again.
Spider-Man, on the other hand, did not back down and resumed his vicious onslaught. "Don't you feel it? How does it feel to be pursued by someone who is relentless?" With his final punch, he knocked Morlun against a wall and yelled, "I can't let you take a few deep breaths to regain your strength."
Spider-Man held Morlun's head in a firm grip, infusing him with radiation and weakening him as his backhanded blow pushed him deeper into the wall. That blow emptied the last bit of radiation in his body, but it was worth it.
Morlun lay in front of him, greatly weakened by the numerous doses of radiation he had administered to him. His appearance, though, had changed, and not for the better. 2 to 4 antennas protruded from his brow, while his pale complexion turned green and his eyes went brilliant red.
"Holy," Spider-Man muttered in surprise. "Please, just give me a chance, I implore you." Spider-Man pondered whether he should let him live or kill him right there. When his spider sense tingled in his skull, his line of thought was interrupted. "What?"
Morlun and he both gazed at a shattered piece of the chamber where a stoic Dex was pointing a gun directly at his captor.
"I quit." "No." Dex shot a bullet directly into Morlun's heart, prompting him to collapse to his knees as his body disintegrated. Spider-Man implored, but it was too late. "I was just hungry, that's all, it has nothing to do with me." As the door behind Morlun was bashed on several times, Spider-Man and Dex viewed the glowing lump of radiation that was formerly Morlun. Most likely, Federal Emergency Response Teams. "He harmed me. He caused me a lot of pain." Dex attempted to explain his actions. The hero turned to face the exhausted ex-henchman. "Get away. Never return, or I'll hurt you 1,000 times more than he did." Before exiting the station, he issued a nasty warning. TTIIPMX TTIIPMX TTIIPM. It wasn't long before he came into Patronus, who was leaning against a black van. A raised hand stopped Spider-Man in his tracks before he could welcome him. "Are you squeaky clean?" "Yes. Let us make certain of that." Before banging on the van, Patronus said, "Sky, go ahead and do your thing." Spider-Man observed a woman with a ski mask exit the van, holding a square-shaped device. It was linked to a separate arm that functioned as a scanner of sorts. "What is a Geiger counter? How did you get that?" "No questions, please." Sky swung the scanner around Spider-Man, the counter beeping slightly but showing no traces of radiation. "He's not dirty. I'm not sure how, but he's clean."
"Sorry, Spidey, but Sky and I couldn't take the chance." Patronus stated truthfully before asking Sky a question. "How clean are you? Isn't radiation dangerous?"
"Only in deadly levels in a healthy human. My physiology, however, changed after I gained my powers. Needless to say, I'm only going to take 1 dose for the rest of my life."
"Please do." Patronus and Sky both responded in unison.
Morlun also absorbed the radiation dose I injected into myself each time I stuck him. As it is, his only weakness appears to be radiation. "Speaking of Morlun, where is he? He's no longer alive." Spider-Man finally responded, garnering wide-eyed stares from the couple despite the fact that he couldn't see them. "Didn't you?" Spider-Man shook his head and shook his stinging wrists from punching Morlun so hard. He was shot right through the heart by a victim he kept and abused. Then he turned into a flaming lump of ash. "Whoa." Patronus and Sky answered once more in tandem. Spider-Man chuckled before exhaling a breath of relaxation. "Tell me more about it." He extended his hand to Patronus. "Thank you for saving my life." Patronus hesitantly accepted the hand before clutching it vice-like as their limbs shook. "Now, what did you want with me?"
"That is something that can wait until tomorrow."
"I'm sorry, but I don't want to see you tomorrow." Spider-Man responded truthfully, eliciting a shocked yelp from the novice. What he didn't expect was Patronus descending on his knees and hands, surrounded by a sad cloud. "And here I thought we were friends after all of this. But we haven't had any sleepovers or read any comic books together." As Patronus glanced at Spider-Man curiously, Sky snorted behind her hand. "That was so bad. I do have my moments." Spider-Man responded before wincing. "The adrenaline from the entire day is wearing off, and his injuries are starting to hurt. It's time to pick up the pace. So, once again, I ask, how can I assist you?"
Patronus exchanged a glance with Sky before responding. Black Cat. As the rookie stared at Spider-Man, he blinked in amazement. She stole an artifact from the Boston Museum of Art and Antiquities last night. We followed her as well as the employer who recruited her in New York.
And you're questioning me because... Spider-Man paused to allow them to respond. There are some rumors about you and Black Cat. When Spider-Man sighed loudly and leaned forward, Patronus and Sky laughed. Of course, there are. So they were true. Patronus exclaimed joyfully. Then do you two have a secret signal or something?
What am I, a creature of the night or something? Spider-Man inquired, irritably. Fortunately, his mask concealed his heated cheeks of humiliation. He couldn't see his eyes, but he knew Patronus was staring at him. Quote. All right, here. He pulled something from his concealed utility belt and handed it to the hooded hero. This will send a signal to our secret rendezvous from back then. However, they only work at night.
So we'll have to use it right now. Sky stated shortly after receiving the transmission. I'll kick-start the van. Before they stared at each other, Patronus and Spider-Man noticed Sky entering the van. You want a ride? The hooded hero inquired. No, thank you. I'll be alright by myself. Spider-Man graciously declined. Patronus' mischievous mind had a flash of inspiration. At the very least, let me help you. While his grin was covered beneath the hood, he said. How are you going? His spider sense blared, but it was too late as Patronus grabbed his arms before raising him and twirling around screaming, Hey, hey! What are you doing NNGGGGGG? After being let go, Spider-Man shouted as he flew further and further away from the station. Hope to see you around again, Spidey. Patronus yelled as he approached the van and recognized Sky, who had already removed her mask and was giving him the "what was that" look from the driver's seat. What? I assisted him in getting home. By hurling him into nowhere like a bullet. Wasn't that how New York was? Sky said loudly before turning around and driving the van back to Manhattan. You're quite something, Patronus. Like Spider-Man, I have my moments. The camouflaged ninja muttered this as he leaned back against the van's inner wall, arms behind his head. They were getting closer to finding Black Cat in the artifact, but Naruto had a feeling there was more in store for him and Sky in the city that never sleeps. To be continued.
That's it for this podcast and first into this video. I hope you did enjoy this story, and if you did, like, share, and subscribe for more. And thank you all for having support, and have a great day.